All right, y'all. Welcome back. Happy Sunday. Hope that y'all have had a great weekend. It was fun watching football. Tennessee wasn't playing. It's not as fun, but man, we got a chance to look at some SEC teams, maybe some national teams, whatever people are watching. I'm focused on the SEC. I'm a big picture person, so it's just all about, hey, what's the competition for us to make it to the playoffs? If we make it to the playoffs, we can make it to the national championship. That's all I care about, man. Of course, I want that national championship trophy. I'll take the SEC championship trophy too. I think the Tennessee's up there. But today I'm going to be sharing my opening thoughts on Arkansas. This is a really, really big week, y'all. Like we just talked about, SEC play is really ramping up. And this is a game that Tennessee lost last season. It almost threw us off from making it to the college football playoffs, but we were still able to kind of like backdoor our way in there. But this is one that we need to win, and I don't think it's as easy of a matchup as some people might think. If you're just more like a casual fan, you don't like pay attention to the X's and O's. This one might be kind of tough. So we'll be talking about that, but also I want to talk about some of the SEC games too. We're going to go into like some of the box score stuff. I'll tell you like what my tiers are. Pretty much like my SEC power rankings. It's just a personal ranking. It's just the way that I'm seeing things through 6 weeks. But y'all please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Of course, man, chime in with the chat. I'm going to try to spend some time in here with y'all, man, just because we didn't have anything yesterday. It's been a little bit of a slower week because we are on that bye. But let me also shout out to Coach Swick, man, from Collinsville. He is the head coach there. He's coached some greats like Travis Hunter. He coached Ethan Davis, but he's a very, very close friend. That's my brother. His birthday was last week. His son, he's a huge Tennessee fan. His son, he named him Peyton. His birthday was the day after his birthday. So wanted to, shout out to his whole family. It was really good seeing them over the course of the weekend. All right, so let me go on ahead and dive into a couple of things. So I want to start it off with my tiers for the SEC and kind of like how I have things slotted out mentally. So we have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Understand, y'all, you could be in tier 1, and I mean, styles make fights. I might have you losing to a team in tier 2 or tier 3. You can mix and match that however many ways you want to mix and match it. But things are in order. So I have Tennessee as the number 2 team right now in the SEC. I think that our offense, man, it's unstoppable. That's how I'm feeling. It just looks really good. Defense is, we got to pick some things up there, but I think that we can outscore probably most teams just from what I've watched, especially coming out of yesterday. Ole Miss, I have them over us just because I think that their defense is maybe a step. I mean, I'm not even going to say like a full step. Like, they're better than our defense right now, but our defense has been very banged up. And then I think that Coach Kiffin, it's the exact same offensive system. But Coach Kiffin, man, he's doing a good job with his players. He's doing a good job of dialing up plays. And their offense is just humming. They've had a tough schedule. So you can see what the record is for each of the teams, like the overall record. And then next to that's going to be their SEC record. But yeah, Ole Miss, I think that if you're looking at, hey, who's the best team in the SEC, just for me mentally, I would say that it's probably Ole Miss. And then they kind of match up very well with what Tennessee does. But then Tennessee's number 2. Y'all can see the rest of my top, my first tier. So I don't have Georgia in that tier. Man, look, P and I, we've been trying to tell y'all. We told y'all this since heading into last year. We were kind of like arguing, not really arguing, but just like going back and forth with some other people. Like, oh, well, why isn't Georgia up there? Well, we saw what Georgia did. They made it to the college football playoffs. They won the SEC championship last season, but as soon as they played up against somebody with a pulse, they got beat down. Okay, it's pretty much the same team. I think that this team this year, right, like talking about the playoff version of Georgia, is even worse. That's a game that we don't look back on and say, how did we lose that game? Georgia's about to lose a few. They're about to lose several. They got, I think, Auburn coming up. At Auburn, I think Auburn's going to be ready to just take it to them, and I'm hoping that happens. But yeah, I don't even have Georgia as a playoff team personally. But the teams that I have in tier 2 that are in green, those are the ones that I'm just watching. I think Florida and Texas, they just played yesterday. We're going to talk about that game some. I mean, dude, they're so talented. I know there's a lot of people that were down on Florida. It was the same way last season because Florida's schedule is really tough, y'all. Like, they're playing up against good teams almost every single freaking week. And once they put it together, which we talked about it, I want to say might have been like right around this time last season. It might have been a little bit later last year. But we said, man, like, they're really starting to trend. It was like right around the time that we was about to be playing Florida. I said, dude, I'm watching the film on these guys. They got a lot of dudes. Like, they got a lot of dudes. So if they can put it all together, they're super dangerous, especially down in the swamp. It was rocking yesterday. And Texas, kind of like same thing, very talented. Of course, we're going to break it down more, but yeah, I mean, I think that those are two teams that you got to watch closely. But then, I mean, looking at freaking Dorkowitz and his whole bunch of guys. I mean, listen, I can't stand them, but they haven't played anybody. They haven't lost a game. I think that they might have a pretty tough game coming up this weekend. You got to watch them too. Like the biggest thing about their team, and like really more so their offense, is that outside zone and that stretch. It takes it 2 to 3 years, it feels like, for it to start to pop. But when it pops, boy, they're hard to deal with. So I think that that's a team that you have to also watch. What do they do versus some better competition? That's the only reason that for me they're not in tier one. But outside of that, man, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the SEC. I think that it's just it's the closest thing to an NFL product because there are so many good quality teams, except for the very last one down there, number 16. They're not good, okay? But everybody else, I mean, I'm saying, man, that's a tough matchup for a lot of teams. So it's just, and Big Ten, you know what I mean? Like they're just pretty much everybody's. I mean, they got 4 or 5 teams. Everyone else is pretty trash. Big 12, we know that's a pretty, subpar conference. So there's some parity there, but for different reasons. The SEC, the parity is coming from there. It's a lot of good things going on. There's a lot of good teams. The transfer portal has really balanced things out. But wanted to give some of those opening thoughts before we get into some of these games. But now, first, let me try to chime into this chat because I do see that we've got a couple things coming in. All right, I want to make sure that I do get to as many people as possible. So this one right here from Oreo Puppy Dog saying upset weekend, Nico exposed the AP poll. So, and you know what? That's one of the games that, he played for Coach Franklin at Vandy. That was the only other time that Vandy's been good since I've personally been living, since I was old enough to like really know what the heck was going on. But I didn't want to see him lose that game. He's in a tough spot. I don't even really like talking about Nico just because I think there's a lot of pettiness. Like Nico's not part of this team, and I know that that's not what you're getting at here. So I'm not talking to you, but I'm just saying like there's so much pettiness with the whole Nico thing. I don't care what he's doing. It doesn't matter. Like it has really probably no impact on Tennessee. But them beating Penn State, that does have a little bit of an impact on us, right? Just because that can move us up in the polls. Don't be mad, y'all, if the polls come out today, or I don't know when the polls come out, but don't be mad if Tennessee is still at number 15. We've been at number 15 for like the past month. You know what I'm saying? Don't be upset. Things will play themselves out. So yeah, I mean, but I didn't even watch the game. I don't, I think he saw some of the highlights. He told me, man, Nico was out there balling. Coaching matters, man. Like the system matters. Nico's a guy that, and I didn't even want to even, get into this, but Nico, he's a guy that you got to let him be him. You got to let him move around and stuff. That's where he's dangerous at. But either way, this right here from my dog, man. Hey, you always joining us. Thank you so much for that. Go Vols. You already know how we rocking. So Billy is asking, do I think that we move up in the rankings yet? So, when we beat Arkansas, yes, I think that we hopefully, I mean, maybe we will, but if we don't, man, we got Alabama after that, and we should move up after we beat them, especially down in Tuscaloosa. So from Oreo Puppy Dog is just saying Penn State always ranked too high. Yeah, I feel you on that. I totally, and I wasn't going off on a rant talking to you, you know what I mean? But I totally feel you on that. Those Big Ten teams, they're all always ranked too high because they don't have to play anybody most of the time. I don't know what was going on there. I know that there's a narrative out there with Coach Franklin that he can't win the big games. It feels like they weren't even game planning for Nico and his team. They were probably just looking past him. I don't know who they have this upcoming weekend, if they have a bye or whatever, but it felt like they were looking past it. But like I said, whenever you have a new offensive coordinator, really a whole new coaching staff, things can change drastically, and it's tough if you can't game plan for these guys, because if you got players who can play, I mean, they can break the game wide open. I know that a lot of folks said, well, Nico and Arch, they were overrated, but dog, like they're 5 stars for a reason. It's hard to miss on that talent. With the talent, if it's utilized properly, it is tough to stop, especially playing a quarterback. All right, so let me get to this next one from Sam, and then we're going to jump into some of my, just briefly, I want to go through some of the box score stuff. All right, so Sam is saying was before that game. Okay. I'm not sure what Sam's talking about there. I actually didn't mean to pull this one up, but since it's up, we'll go ahead and go through this from Lofton. What's going on, bro? Do I think it'll be close like Mississippi State? So we're gonna get into it. All right. So y'all just have to bear with me, but I'm gonna try to go through all this other stuff pretty quickly. But I did want to like share my thoughts on it with some of the, like SEC stuff, national stuff, whatever. But all right. So starting off right here. This is from Pro Football Focus. This is the box score. All right. And let me show y'all what we're dealing with. So I'm gonna scroll this up. So this column here, this is all the team stuff. This is gonna be rushing numbers, passing numbers, and then in the bottom left, once we scroll down more, that's gonna be like special teams numbers. But this, we're starting off obviously with Mississippi State first, Texas A&M, and A&M, they came out from 60-minute ball game. They dominated more towards the end. Now it started off pretty close. I said, man, I think that Mississippi State they might be able to pull this one off. But going down to Cal Field at night, that's a very tough place to play versus an A&M team that is very, very talented. So, I mean, you have to understand that, like this offensive system, this veer and shoot system, more of the Art Browse version of it, which is what Mississippi State is still running. Tennessee is kind of like graduated, I would say, way past that. We're more like what Lane Kiffin and them are doing now. But it's tough on the road. Very tough to get this offense going because it's predicated off of so much gimmicky stuff. You know what I mean? But either way, I still think that Mississippi State is a good quality football team. So I'm just going to go through like a couple of quick things. So number one, with the total offensive plays, you can typically tell who won the game by who had the most, the most plays on offense. So A&M, they had 77. Mississippi State had 51. What that means is your offense is holding on to drives. Your defense is getting off the field. That's typically what that means. Now, there are some times when you could have less offensive plays because, hey, man, we're scoring quick. Like this defense, they really can't stop us. But still, like the defense has to be able to get off the field. And then once it gets into like the fourth quarter, you want to be able to slow the game down. And that's where like a lot of plays should come, should start to add up. But that's the first part of it. Y'all can see the first downs and all that, right? So 14 for Mississippi State, and then 26 for Texas A&M. And let me make sure that everything is still moving well here. Okay, because sometimes inside of this studio, things will mess up on me. All right, so let's come on over here to the like rushing numbers. So total rushing plays, Mississippi State only had 27, and A&M had 53. Very similar to the style that Tennessee had last season versus A&M. Run the football, keep that offense off the field, and you don't really have to worry about it. This is something that Tennessee needs to do a little bit better job of. Just for me personally, moving forward, we got to start to keep our defense off the field more. We can run the football. I think we're averaging somewhere around like 5 yards per carry. We need to just like control the game better from that standpoint. It's tough to do, and it's tough for me to say, hey, this is a bad job. I'm not saying that it's a bad job at all by our staff, because if you can throw the football down the field and put up points quickly, well, that's really what we want to do. And we've won almost every single game. We really beat Georgia, but we just lost it in the final seconds. And it kind of feels like maybe it was predicated off of us doing what I just said, trying to run the football more and slowing the game down or speeding it up, however you want to look at that. But either way, 27 runs here for Mississippi State, 53 for Texas A&M. And then if you look at the total rushing yards, you can see, my goodness, A&M ran for 304 yards. That's the net rushes. It's not like ESPN or some of these other places where you go and look at the stats, where they're taking out like lost yardage for sacks, for tackles for loss, so on and so forth. But if you look at the average yards per rush, Mississippi State at 4 yards per carry versus us last week, they were at 4.6. Our offense was also at 4.6, but then you see that Texas A&M at 5.7. So it's a different style of offense. Styles make fights, like we always like to say. If you have a quarterback that's more mobile, which is something else I'd love to see Tennessee implement with our offense, that more empty sets, I think that we would be like a complete and total offense once we do a little bit more of that. But yeah, A&M, they have a quarterback who can run, so it's a lot more difficult to slow down their running game. But y'all can see some of the other things, right, like the average yards before contact, after contact, the runs of 10-plus yards, so on and so forth. So I'm going to come on down here to the passing, right? So we can see that Mississippi State passed the football 24 times, and so did Texas A&M. But as far as like the net yards or the gross passing yards, Mississippi State 140, I think, versus us last week, they were like 180. And then if you're looking at Texas A&M, they were at 180. So, yeah, there are some things that, like I said, you have to look at the whole thing. But just because if Mississippi State coming on the road to a place that's really loud, you have to go silent count. It's easy to kind of like jump the snaps, whether it's from pass rushing, which A&M, that's really how they dominated in this game. They played Their defensive structure was very straight up. A whole lot of deep coverages, but more straight up coverages, not gimmicky stuff. But they blitzed more than Tennessee did versus Mississippi State, and they just had a field day with Mississippi State's offensive line. Now I know their right tackle who played versus us, he was out number 76. But to me, he was like their worst tackle anyway. Like he wasn't very good. That just me. So I don't think that had much of an impact. But yeah, I mean, all this type of stuff, it just, it plays into it. But, clearly, I would say that Mississippi State, their passing defense looks strong, right? Like we talked about, they've got some good secondary players, and we saw that. They got some turnovers, for the most part. I think that they looked pretty solid. So let me move on. I'm just going to scroll down. And right here, this is crazy to me. Mississippi State, 75% accuracy. And then if you factor in the drops, they're at 79%. And then coming on over to A&M, 57%, and then factoring in drops at 68%. This is my thing with Mississippi State, that I feel like I have them kind of high up right now just through 6 games, just as far as like my tiers and stuff for the SEC. But I think personally that they're going to run into some trouble when teams can match up better with them. We know that Mississippi State still isn't that. They're not on the level of talent as like an A&M. I think that once teams can match up and slow down their running game, can they find the openings down the field, and can the quarterback hit on those passes? If they can't, then I could see them losing to several teams. So they're a team that right now I have as, hey, man, they can make it to the college football playoffs, but I would not be shocked. I haven't really looked at their schedule. I think it's tougher. It's one of the tougher ones. But I would not be shocked if they, lose several games. But I wanted to just scroll through here, show y'all over in this area what all the special team stuff looks like. So now we're going to move on to Vanderbilt versus Alabama. And what I'm going to do first, okay, I'm going to pull this up right now, but I'm going to get into this chat real quick because I think that there's some more chats coming in. I don't want to keep y'all waiting, okay? Like the main point is I want to be able to interact with y'all. So let's go ahead and get into this chat. So this one is from Charles Webb. All right, so he's talking to Sam. He's saying that if Tennessee doesn't fix the outside linebackers, they won't beat Bama or the Gators. Yeah, so with, he's talking about outside backers, but really Tennessee's outside backer in our 3-3-5 system is really our Leo, so that's like our edge rushers. We have to be able to set the edge, and I think that that's what Charles' point is. We have to be able to set the edge. That's an excellent point because that's going to be huge versus Arkansas. We'll talk about it here in just a second, but let me get to this one, saying that Syracuse got blown out 2 weeks in a row, and the Mississippi State just got blown out. Tennessee can't beat a top 5 team if healthy. I disagree with that 100. I disagree with that thoroughly. So, styles make fights. I mean, understand the Mississippi State just played up against a very good Texas A&M team at Texas A&M. Like they're playing in Arlington. That's a tough place to play at night. That makes it even tougher. And it was pretty close for a good portion of it. It was just, if their offensive line, really a lot like Tennessee, we'll talk about this more, but a lot like Tennessee for the past couple of seasons. With that offensive system, once teams figure out how to stop it, there's not a whole lot of answers because it's so much wide split gimmicky stuff. You can't counter whenever people are blitzing. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no real answers to it. But there were people open down the field. I watched that film. There were people open down the field. They just couldn't get to them. And then they started to get desperate. But they still ran the football pretty well on them. But as far as Syracuse, I know that their starting quarterback is down. They played up against SMU. That's one of the better teams in the ACC. The week before that, I forgot who they played, but the ACC is funny like that, right? Like where teams just have, to me, it feels like they just have like a down game or two. But that's still that offense, the one that we faced, that was a good offense. I mean, please don't come in here with we can't be the top 5 team. That's crazy, dog. Like that's just, but that's what I'm saying. If you actually watch the film and break it down and all that, you'll understand. It's not, man, styles make fights every single week. It's not, you can't look at. It's not necessarily like a transitive thing where, oh, this team beat that team by so many points. So that means that, the one team's good and then the other team sucks. That's just not, football doesn't work that way. It's a lot more like chess. All right, so let's go on to Sam. Okay. Yes, all right, so let's get on to this one. All right, so who was the best passing offense in the SEC? I think that it might be Tennessee. That's just based off of the numbers. But I think that from a sheer, like, doing everything that we just talked about, Ole Miss has 2 good quarterbacks that are mobile, and they use their legs more than we do, and then they show empty sets. That's really all that we're missing to me, just breaking down the X's and O's and things like that. But I would say that it's got to be one of those. I think that we have, Ole Miss or Tennessee is probably either or best offense period from top to bottom in the SEC. We haven't run the football as much as we could. We're still running the football well. All right, so next one from Lofton, saying the shaping looked like Arch unsettled and rushed. I was pulling from Mississippi State last night. Yeah, I was too. All right, so Billy saying Tennessee. Always love that. Vols by 50, saying that they were on the road too, right? I'm not sure who they. I'm not sure who they. I'm not sure who you're talking about there. All right, so Billy saying that I think Green's running. Okay, it may be a problem, but if we make him throw on the run, he's very inaccurate. Big day for Colton. Yeah. All right. So look, and then we'll get to this last one right here. So Bryce Young is a bust. I know that a lot of y'all are probably watching NFL games. Falcons are off, so I don't personally care. Like the NFL is kind of boring to me, but I'll try to tune in later on. All right, so let's talk about Vandy versus Alabama. Number one, I think that we can all say that Vanderbilt is a good quality football team. Alabama's pretty good. I think that some people will say, well, Alabama's super good. I had them in my tier number one, but I think that they're gettable. Like, really, if you look at like the on the field stuff, Tennessee matches up better versus Alabama than we do versus Vandy. It's just, again, styles make the fights. But let's talk about a couple things. This game was close, like deep into the fourth quarter. A couple of costly turnovers is what ultimately changed the tide of this game. But as far as the offensive plays, Vanderbilt had 54 and Alabama had 69. As far as the rushes, Vanderbilt had 18 and Alabama had 34. So with Vanderbilt's offensive system, it's basically triple option. So they needed to run the football more. I'm very shocked that they didn't run it more. But let me show y'all a couple of things here, right? So like the average net yards per rush, Vanderbilt 8.1 and Alabama 5.1. So what this tells me is just like what we said. So look, I would say that Vandy can run the football. Obviously, that's a huge part of their offense. But also, man, Alabama's run defense and their run offense is not great. That's a big part of the reason I really like that matchup for us versus them. And then like with Vandy, it's a lot of stuff that will hit those edges. So if we can't find a way to keep contained, that one could be tough. But I think that that's two good teams, right? So y'all can look at like whatever stat you want to. Let's come on down to the passing, because this is where things start to get interesting. And really, I think that the game, like number one, for me, going down to Tuscaloosa, my biggest concern right now for the past couple of years, or for like the past few years, has been the referees cheating, because they do cheat. I mean, like, that's just a fact. If you've been watching ball for long enough, they cheat for them, but they didn't do it so much versus Vandy in the first half. I think that they were waiting on, Bama to prove, hey, we're pretty good. In the second half, I started to see some stuff. It was like, I don't know, like they're missing calls or some ticky-tack calls. That's what we have to watch out for. But I think that's part of the reason, too, that the game was a little bit closer in the first half versus the second half. But just talking about passing. So Vanderbilt threw the football 36 times, and then Alabama threw it 35 times, right? You can see what the yard difference is here. So 202 for Vandy, 340 for Alabama. You can see the yards per attempt. I mean, Alabama, once they realize, man, we are the more talented team, let's just man up and stop over processing this, because we can beat them in a one-on-one situation. That also hurt, Vandy's chances. Tennessee can do that same thing. So you can see the huge difference there. But as far as the accuracy, so Pavia was at 60%, 75% factoring in drops and things like that. And then if you're looking at Ty Simpson, who I've told you, I think he's very, very good. 74% just like off the rip, but then 86% if you're factoring in drops. They got some real dudes outside. The young guy, number 2, he started to show up for Bama. That's not a good thing. I was hoping that he would just like tap out mentally, because it was really just like 5 and number 1. That was the main problems. Their running game kind of got going a little bit better versus that Vanderbilt front, but of course ours is better. Vandy got several sacks. Of course ours is better. So that goes back to something that I talked about. I felt like, man, Alabama's got one of the best offensive lines in the country. I said it might be rivaling ours. I don't think that way anymore, so that's also very, very positive. So there's a lot of good things that I take away from this game, just from a Tennessee standpoint, and how I think that we could, find some points. I think that we'll be fine versus their defense. Those guys are soft to me. And I think that we'll be fine versus their offense too, just because we have a good game plan typically dialed up versus Bama. We play pretty well versus Bama. Of course, we're going to get up for it. We're not scared of them like, Georgia is, what I'm saying? Like, we're used to playing them. So let's go on to this next game, man. And this will be the last one, y'all, before we get into the Tennessee stuff, just as far as us versus Arkansas. So this is Texas versus Florida, obviously. Close game. It wasn't a close game for the whole time. But let's take a look at the plays. So 65 for Florida, 58 for Texas. You see how close that is? close score. That's typically how it goes. As far as the rushing numbers, Texas ran the football 20 times, Florida ran it 37 times. But watch this, though, with the average net yards per rush, Texas was at 4.5 yards per carry. Florida was at 4.3. Not a whole lot of a difference, but there was a difference. You wouldn't think that just in looking at the overall numbers, because Texas only rushed for 89 yards and then Florida rushed for 159. But the yards before contact, Texas was doing better there. That says that the offensive line maybe a little bit better as far as like the run blocking, maybe some of the things with the scheme. You know what I mean? But 2.1 yards to Florida's 1.8. But after the carry, Florida was at 2.5 yards per carry. They were running through a lot of tackles. There's a lot of similarities and like parallels with Tennessee versus Texas with the scheme and all of that, right? So if you're just talking about Texas's defense, a lot of what they do is very similar to what Tennessee tries to do. And, you know, they had trouble setting a strong edge. They had a lot of trouble making tackles. That's where Tennessee's struggling at. But then, you know, just looking at Florida, their offensive line starting to pick it up. They got some good backs. I think that their offense, tough to stop. Very, very pro style. They've got some real dudes on the outside that can make things happen. I think that Lagway, him and Arch Manning, I was very high on both of those guys coming in to this season. Obviously, they're both very talented. But just talking about DJ Lagway. So with the pro style system like Florida runs, you are asked to process the field. He was throwing it into triple coverage, double coverage. Didn't look good, especially down the field from that standpoint. I think that's going to be positive for Tennessee moving forward. But then just like talking about Arch, he had some good throws. He had some things that he struggled with. I think that it's very similar to Tennessee for the past couple of years with our scheme just getting stale, people figuring out how to stop it. He held onto the football way too long. I think part of that is just because there was no one open. Like we saw that last season for the past couple of years. No one's open. The quarterback's holding on to it. Now, the difference with their scheme versus ours is theirs is more pro style where they're asking you to stand inside the pocket. So, Arch, yes, stand inside the pocket. But for us, hey, you go through your they call it 2 reads. It's really just 1 read. You know, I'm talking about Tennessee with Coach Heupel up to this season because this year is different. A lot more pro style, really like reading the field elements. But it was like, hey, if that 1 read isn't there, we want you running. Okay. I think that Coach Sark, he needs to find a way to get his offense, make it more friendly for Arch, or Arch just needs to be more of a baller and stop trying to be like this pocket passing quarterback. Just go out there and ball. He's a bigger guy who can run, dog. Use that. And if he would have done it, I think that Texas comes out of that game with the win. But yeah, you know, Texas defense, they really haven't played anybody outside of the Buckeyes. I think that they're overrated too. But, you know, clearly we can see that their run-stopping defense isn't that great. And then Florida had 6 sacks. They had 3 coming into this game. They had 6 yesterday. They had 3 coming into this game. That's crazy. So their offensive line isn't great. There's just a lot of problems right now, I think, with Texas. So, yeah, I think that Tennessee's better than really both of these teams. But, man, Florida really scares me because we had to go down to the swamp. Like I said, it was rocking. You gotta watch out for it. Actually, let me get into some of these quarterback numbers because I didn't even really talk about that. So quarterback numbers for this game: Texas threw it 38 times, Florida threw it 28 times. You want to be able to run the football well. You can actually see the Texas outpassed Florida based off what PFF says. But if you're looking at the accuracy, so 53% for Arch, and then 64% if you take out the drops and all that. But then for Lagway, 75%, a lot of underneath stuff, a lot of, you know, moving the pocket and just being user-friendly, which there's nothing wrong with that. Find a way to freaking win. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. But, yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, you know, Texas just didn't look very good, but I think that Florida defense is very, very good. You know, they have a very strong front. We talk about that all the time. We've talked about it for the past several years. They are tough. All right, so let me go on ahead now and jump into Tennessee versus Arkansas. So this is the box score from our game last year. We lost it 14-19. We all know about this game very, very well on the road, coming off of the bye. Players banged up, you know, players out of shape. Offensive line didn't look good. This was Coach T. Will came out and showed how you really take away this offense. Nothing really was working down the field. We were able to get some isolations down the field. It was a freaking miracle. But whenever you're trying to operate down the field and there's no one open, you have to try to hold on to the ball. They're taking up the running lanes for the quarterback. It was really tough. T. Will, he's not there now. Their defense. So the new guy that's stepping up as the defensive coordinator spent a lot of time coaching in the NFL and also in Canada. So I don't know how much is going to change, like with his scheme and all that, but he might have the answers to our system now because it is more pro style. So he might have better answers than we've seen up to this point. Like, we have to watch out for that. But just as far as like how their players look, because that's the biggest thing that we'll be talking about. Obviously, coming up tomorrow, over the course of this whole week, we're going to be talking about breaking this stuff down a lot more. But I would say that up front, they've got some big defensive tackles that can obviously eat up space. Number 5, very twitchy guy, double teams and all that. We got Jesse Perry, who's going to be bumping inside at right guard. We got Sam Pendleton at center. Pendleton has kind of not really struggled, but he's him with Shem Umarov at left guard didn't look the best so far this year. But now with Wendell Moy on that left guard, should be able to help out Pendleton. But Pendleton and Jesse Perry with like ankle sprains, how healthy are they over the course of this week? How much can they go? It's a good thing that Sham can spell one of those guys, so that we can just kind of like keep him fresh, keep him healthy. But saying all those things just to say that, yeah, this is going to be a pretty challenging game for us with our offensive line, just because of the way that their players, their personnel is set up with the Arkansas front. Now, as far as their linebackers, y'all, they've got guys, and it feels like all the guys from last year came back this season. They're all really good athletes. They play very well out in space. Before with Coach T. Will, he had a lot of run blitzes. He would get those guys downhill, but they do a really good job of getting off of blocks, beating the blocks with their speed, things like that. So, and then also too, just like with the coverage, because like we're going to be doing a lot more things with the tighter splits, maybe going to the middle of the field, trying to target linebackers, safeties. Their linebackers versus our tight ends, I think that, and I said this last year too, I think that their linebackers, from just like a talent standpoint, they match up a lot better with where, I think that they match up better versus Tennessee's offense than any other linebacking core that we've played or that we will play. Now, let me also show y'all this, because this is something else that I wanted to show y'all, just like the actual talent for both of these teams and how that measures up. So we'll come right back to these stats in just a second. But this is more of like what I'm thinking. I wasn't showing it to y'all. But so this is how our defense matches up versus their offense, right? So we have 27 blue chip players to their 12. Doesn't really matter, because Bobby P, his system is not going to change. There was a lot of plays that we get. So we gave up 23 first downs versus them last year. Most of those plays was on our linebackers. Some of them was on our safeties. It might have been 1 or 2 on our corners or star players. But we all know we've had some trouble with that, right? So I think that their scheme matches up very, very, very well versus our scheme. But hopefully, because they won't be changing up too much, like, it's funny if, me going back, looking at maybe we'll call like a 1st and 10 from 2024 versus 2025. Almost the exact same play. The 3rd and short stuff, literally exact same stuff. Exact same everything. So we should have a good beat on it. But, man, our linebackers just look mentally lost. Like, it looked like the game was too fast for them, or maybe like we hadn't game planned, which I know isn't true. Like, I know that they had to have been ready from that standpoint. I know that Coach Banks got them ready, but they just looked way out of place. Like, they're moving all over. It just didn't look good. But y'all can see that obviously, we are the more talented team from this aspect. Now, let's just take a look at our offense versus their defense. And we have 20 blue chip caliber players on our offense. They have 14 on their defense. So pretty close there, right? From a talent standpoint. I don't know. It might be tough. The thing that gives me a lot of confidence is that this game's going to be at home. But I definitely wanted to just kind of like show y'all how some of those things break down. Now, let's bring it back to these stats, okay? And I'm going to go through just like a few more things here, right? So last season, they had 74 plays. We had 65. Y'all can see they had 438 total yards. We had 347. They had more yards per play than we did, 5.9 to our 5.3. Like I said, they had 23 first downs, watched every single one of them. Most of that was on our backers. We had 17 first downs. You can see the rushing first downs versus the passing first downs. You can see the penalty first downs. You can see how we were looking on 3rd down. We're actually better on 3rd down than they were, but we got to stay out of 3rd and short on defense, because, man, they got some big running backs that get downhill. A lot of what they do obviously is going to be predicated off of their running game, but, man, their option stuff with a quarterback that's 6'6", 230, who can run, who can pass, triple option stuff. This is going to be tough. This is going to be a tough game. I just think that, especially Tennessee's defense versus our offense, probably going to be pretty tough. But either way, let me come back. Let's talk about them rushing the football. So they ran it 42 times. We ran it 32 times. They had 143 yards. We had 193 yards. Average net yards per rush, we had 6. They had 3.4, but they just stuck to it more than us. I feel like we need to try to stick to the running game a little bit more. Like, we got to find a way to get that going. I think that we've probably tried to make some tweaks over this bye week, and that's going to be big for us. And then we can see just like the runs of 10 plus yards. And then let's come on down to the passing. So passing wise, very, very close. 33 passes for us, or 32 for them, or passing plays. And then coming on down to this, like the pass attempts, again, very, very close. And then, just as far as the accuracy, we're at 59%, 62 if you factor in drops. They were at 70%, 85 if you factor in drops. Can't live like that. That's not how we want to live at all. But just wanted to kind of like scroll through this and just give y'all the opportunity to see how some of the things played out for us last year. Going to be totally different with us being at home than being on the road. They'll have to use a silent count. I think that we'll be able to impact the quarterback even more because, like we talked about, it's a lot easier to do it once you can start to pick up on that snap count. But with all those things being said, let me bring this thing back over and let me get into some of this chat, right? I just wanted, this is like very, very broad opening thoughts. I really feel like our offense should be able to go down the field just because their secondary doesn't look super great. Number 4 is one of their players. I saw him playing at nickel, or playing in the slot, what we call the star. Didn't look good at all. I think their secondary is very, very, very gettable. I think that we could probably hold up pretty well versus their offensive line, a lot better than we did last season. The new wrinkles that we've added could help us. Maybe could hurt us, but we have to be able to run the football and we have to be able to stop the run. And we have to be able to generate some pressure on the quarterback and hopefully get some turnovers because I think that their offense, obviously Bobby P, he wants to keep that job, right? Gonna be tough. He's gonna have a really good game plan with the whole bye week. He'll probably switch up something. But let me go on ahead and get into this chat, all right? So Vol's about 50 saying that, but Tennessee is ranked and UCLA ain't. So I don't know what that's in reference to or what that means. Yeah, that to me, like I said, I'm not like petty like that. I don't even care if they're not on this team. Like Kobe Thomas, he looked really good playing at safety. I'm happy for him. I know that he was kind of like starting up his family and stuff. I want to see these guys do well. Unless they're playing us, then that's when I want to win. I don't care about none of that. We have to be able to control what we can. You know what I'm saying? I think that Tennessee's now at a spot where we can actually do that. All right. Yep. Vols about 50. I don't know if this game's gonna. I don't think it's gonna get to that point. Oh, okay. So huge. So thank you, Unga, saying that Joey disrespect is real. If Nico stayed and had Joey stats, the media would be. All right. So off topic. Please rank your top 5 Tennessee cornerbacks since 2015. All right. So first, let me let me get to the super chat part of this first, man. Give me just a second. It might take me a little minute to get this thing dialed up. All right, so I'm gonna bring this one back up, and then actually I'm gonna take us back to our defense versus our offense. So top 5 cornerbacks, it's really hard for me since 2015. I don't know, but I would say that the guys that we have now are playing just as well, if not better, than the corner. I mean, shoot, our cornerback played for a long, long time. Coach Et is doing a phenomenal job with our cornerbacks. But obviously, Mod. Hopefully, he can be back. We'll see what's going to happen coming up this week. But it'd be big to be able to get him back just for like depth purposes. Obviously, man, Colton Hood. He's played outstanding football since he's been here. I think that Ricky Gibson was playing very well to kind of start the season off last year. People didn't give him enough credit. He played well. And then, of course, man, you got Ty Redmond as a true freshman. His numbers, and I've told y'all, I've gone through and like looked at him versus the rest, not just him, but us, the entire team versus the rest of the country. He's very high up on a lot of the key metrics. A guy that's 6'2", 6'3", really long, that understands ball, that's playing physical. He's going to be really freaking good. So yeah, I would say that our cornerback room as a whole, even though it's not healthy, but let's just say if it was healthy, to me, since I've known Tennessee football, it would be just as good, if not maybe even better, from a pure like cover corner standpoint that we've ever had. Not just with Coach Heupel, but period, point blank, ever. It is that good. We got real dudes, and they're playing very, 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 very well. Super proud of them. Also happy to see them showing a little bit more physicality too, because that's going to be very necessary moving forward. All right, so next one from Sam saying that Tennessee's D-line is going to feast on the Alabama O-line. Listen, Alabama and Tennessee, we know that both teams are going to be getting up for it. I think that we're going to play well. I think that we're going to generate sacks. Probably just right now, I'd say somewhere around 3 to 4 sacks is about what I'm thinking. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that there's a lot of places. Alabama's center is the best center, and I keep on talking about best this, best that since whenever, but he really is. He's not a very big guy. I think he transferred in from Washington, and a couple years ago we talked about Washington's offensive line. We're like, man, they got this little small center. I had no idea that he was that sort of a player. He's a freaking beast. I mean, he's a dog. He's one of the best centers that I've seen since I've just like ever. He's like up there like with the Pouncies. To me, he's a first round center. He's a guy that you take in the first round. Really good. They can do some nice things, but it's not as good as I had at first thought it was. There's some ways that we can win. We just got to go prove it. All right, so next one from Eric29 is saying if we played our game against Mississippi State, it would have been more like the box score with A&M last night, and I agree with that. You also have to look at we gave them a lot of short fields, right? I want to say on maybe all of their touchdowns. I think that they were all on short fields. So we did some nice things. Obviously they can do some nice things too, running the football, so on and so forth. But yeah, if the game was in Neyland at night, then yeah, it would have looked very similar to what A&M did, I think personally. But styles make fights, not just about with the personnel, with the schemes, but also where's the game being played at, and so on and so forth. But that's just like that offense. It doesn't work very well on the road. It just doesn't, and we've seen it firsthand, right? All right, so next one. This one is from Steven Johnson. Hope that I'm saying that right. Saying that I think that we have the talent to win it, to win at Alabama, but they cheat. That's a fact. And saying that, okay, the refs, yeah, that one. I mean, they definitely cheated us out of that game bad. But you could go back every single year that we played there and see them cheating. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's a fact. Hopefully, our players know that. Our coaches need to tell them, hey, well, first off, we got to go beat Arkansas. We cannot overlook them. But, after that game's over, don't expect any freaking calls. You're going to get held. You got to make plays anyway. They're going to push off on you. You got to make the stops anyway. They're going to hold you as a wide receiver. You got to go make the catch anyway. Be a real dog and win this game, right? Like, the referees should not be able to hold us, okay? And we also have to be smart. We have to think, let's not get any dumb personal foul penalties, okay? Like, don't even get me fired up because I can't stand Bama. Like, I know that y'all know I can't stand Georgia. I can't stand Bama. It's pretty close. Of course, I hate Georgia more, but it is very, very close. I can't stand him. All right, so next one. All right, so and Tennessee didn't run him much. Yeah, I think that we're kind of scared to do it. Like I said, I totally get it. I know that there's a lot of fans that want to talk about Nico, and so I will talk about it. But just know that most of the time, like whenever we're putting out content, it has nothing to do with Nico. Like that's never the point that we're trying to make. The point that we're trying to make is about the players that we have here currently and how we feel like we could get to the SEC championship, to the national championship with what we have. If you're not here, to me, it doesn't really matter. But I totally get it. All right, so next one from Cal. What's going on, Cal? Saying that there was a huge momentum shift when the refs called back that Vandy pick six. Yeah, and so that's a play that I actually missed. I tried to watch the whole game, but I'm flipping back and forth, and of course got other things going on. But that's one that I missed. That's huge that they called that back. But that was I'm sure that was cheating. That's just what they do. All right, so from Miss Terry's Bathwater saying, GBO, what a week to have a bye. Yeah, it was. From my dog MG Way saying hey to everybody. What's going on, bro? But I got to rewatch on the TV. Okay, cool. Hey, man, thank you for that, man. Dope. So Eric 29 saying, isn't Syracuse starting a quarterback out for the season? Yeah, I think he is out for the season. I know that he's out. I'm not quite sure for how long, but that can make a difference. This one right here from Matt SS. What's going on, bro? Yeah, it was a great day of college football for sure. All right, so this one's saying that definitely nervous about Bama and Florida, and Oklahoma will be a stressful game as well. I'm glad that you brought up Oklahoma because some people might be wondering, well, why are they up? I don't even know, but some people might be wondering, why are they up in your top, one tier? And the reason that I have Oklahoma up there is because I know that once that quarterback comes back, they might lose a game or two, like in the little spurt that he's not playing. But once he comes back, they are a problem, and they match up very well versus Tennessee. That's really more of like, this, you could almost call this, hey, like, who's the biggest matchup issues for Tennessee? You know what I'm saying? Because that's how my mind works. But yeah, he's really good. I think that their defense has shown some good things. We already know that they have a great, defensive mind as their head coach, and they've got some guys who can make some plays. But I do feel like the game being in Neyland, and of course, it's Heupel's old team will have some things dialed up too. But that should be a really, really fun game. All right. Yep. Oh man, see, I hate to see players getting injured, man. It's terrible. All right, so Charles is saying the Tennessee got a 10 sack game in them, and it should be against Bama. Well, I mean, hey, y'all are a lot higher, or maybe y'all are like a lot lower on Alabama's offensive line than I am. I don't know about 10 sacks. That's a lot, dude. But I do think that we can find success there. You know, I just think that we match up very well versus how they play. Very, very well. All right, so this one from Slick 420 saying that we match up better against Alabama's defense than we did against Mississippi State. I think so too, bro. Like as crazy as that sounds, I think so too. I think we'll be fine versus their defense for sure. But I mean, too, you also have to think about it because their defense, they do a lot more straight up and down stuff. They do a lot more like they might try to man up, which I think that we can kill them on the outside down the field if they want to do that. But with some of the like intermediate stuff with our system, man coverage is and man is probably the best versus most things, but that could be, you know, that could be something. I don't really see too. They got some dudes up front. It's not too many that really scare me. I also think that they're soft. I think that they stand back and catch blocks. They catch tackles. Run it down their freaking throats. Okay, let's be the more dominant team and let's not let up on these guys. Okay, take your shots. I'm talking about from a physical standpoint. If you get a kill shot on somebody, I just talked about, hey, we have to be smart. Yeah, I mean, if we're up by several points, if we're up by several scores, take that freaking kill shot. All right, freaking Ryan Williams is soft. He's soft. Go be physical. Okay, go be very physical with that guy. He don't want no parts of that. Go be physical with him. Take him out the game. Let's just worry about number 1 and number 5, and then you know their freaking running backs and all that. I think we're gonna be fine. Okay, I think that we are going to be fine. All right. So let me finish up what you're saying here. And then Alabama is missing a few key players on defense. I think that we win in Tuscaloosa. I think that we'll pull it off too, brother. I do. All right. So MG Wade saying that the only thing that worries me about Bama is the refs. Those are facts, and we saw that in the Vandy game yesterday. Facts, facts, facts. So from Slick 420 saying that I didn't see anything too crazy from the refs against Vandy. Yeah, you know, it wasn't as bad as it typically is, but it versus us. Trust me, they're going to pull out all the stops. So it's going to be calls. We're going to say, what in the world? It's not going to matter. You know, like we have to overcome that. But yeah, versus Vandy, they did kind of let them play some. That is true. Even though I think that they did cheat, they did let them play a little bit more than they typically would. All right, so this one is saying, how are we going to plan against Bobby P? Yeah, I don't know, man. So like I said, if we go back to the game last year, which I'll show y'all some clips once we get into the actual like course of the week, especially on Patreon. You know, we'll break some things down. Y'all can join us there, patreon.com/Bluechip Breakdown, or y'all can be members on YouTube. I clicked on the join button just below this video and get more of that type of content. But yeah, it's tough just because they're so versatile. They're so multiple. The first thing has got to be to slow down them hitting the edge because they've seen us struggle with it. That's going to be a huge point of emphasis in this game. They can do it with several different players. We gotta like contain everything first. Okay, slow down the running game first. They'll hit on some stuff passing wise, but take away what you want to take away. So if it's deep vertical stuff, like cover 2 is something I've said I would like to see us run more. This really isn't an offense that you want to run cover 2 versus because they run so many seams, so many posts. They have a lot of cover 2 beaters. I think that we're gonna have to try to, you know, man up, and you know, just kind of like mix some things up, bring some different blitzes, put pressure on the freaking quarterback. That would be my game plan. Is get as much pressure on Taylor Green as you possibly can. That's the way that I would do it. But I think that our game plan might be pretty similar to what it was last year. Maybe just try to execute it better. So we will see, and we will talk about it more. All right. So this one is saying that I think that Pavia got targeted and the refs didn't call it. Oh yeah, probably. Yeah, he almost said something, but stopped himself. How does a daggum guy that was quarterback at Bama, how does he get on that freaking call? How many times did they show that personal foul with Vanderbilt hitting that guy late on kickoff or, you know, whatever it was? How many times did they go back and show that? I mean, how does he get on that game? But this is the Bama bias, and it's very, very real. We got to be able to overcome it. But first, we have got to be able to beat Arkansas. That is a must win because I'm telling you that game down in the swamp, that's looking tougher and tougher by the day. We have to win until we get there for sure if we want to make it to the college football playoff. So we got to be like laser focused. Of course, not us as fans, but the freaking team and the coaches and everybody else better be dialed in because this is a good Arkansas team. I don't care what their record is. I don't care what the score was. Their game last weekend. I don't care. they present a lot of problems to this Tennessee team. All right, so this one, Vols by 50 saying that Crown of Deuce helmet almost knocked Pavi out. Yeah, but that's how it goes. So 38-24, I think for Tennessee, obviously. I don't know if that's in favor of us versus Arkansas or Alabama. I'll take either one. I'll take both of them for sure. All right, so you already know. Love it, love it. And some obvious PR calls against Bama. I saw that. I saw that a lot of times, man. They was letting them play. That's one of the other things that Alabama, they've got some bigger cornerbacks. They've got some bigger secondary players, but I think that we'll be fine. Like we saw some bigger guys for Mississippi State. So I think that Chris Brazzell, he's just on a totally different level. Love Staley, love Matthews. We need to like see versus Bama. I think that our tight ends could be a bigger problem than they might be able to be versus Arkansas, unless we can just scheme it up for them. All right, 24 Tennessee. Love that. Love that energy. All right. AP poll has Tennessee at 12 now. Okay. So we actually moved up. I am shocked, but hey, moving up doesn't really mean too much, right? I mean, obviously it makes us feel good as fans, but we got to come out and take care of freaking business. We got a big-time ball game coming up. This is going to be one of those weeks that I'll keep on saying it because I got to make, like, the players and the coaches really need to be dialed in for this because we wasn't last year. That's a game that we really should have won. I mean, even with everything that went wrong, like we had like running into the kicker or something penalty that really set us back, messed us up. We should have won that game down in Fayetteville. We need to really send a message, I think, this year and try to win this one big. All right. So also saying from MG Way that I think that that's about where we will stay until we play Bama. I think that you're right on that. Okay. So we're gonna get to. Oh man, there's a lot of them in here. Okay, so they starting to stack up. All right, so dude said Nico beat a ranked team, and we haven't. Oh, okay, so that's what that's from. Okay, yeah, that's not that's not true at all. I think with Arkansas, Tennessee's tempo and spacing will stress Arkansas secondary and expose their thin defensive line. The linebackers can't do it all, especially if Aguilar gets into a rhythm early. It'll be interesting to see will they play if they play us the way that they did last year. Our spacing played right into how they wanted to play us. That's why we couldn't do anything because all we mostly did was the spacing, But now with the tighter splits, it's going to be very, very interesting. I get what you're saying, but styles do make fights, and that's why it's so critical that Tennessee was able to figure out how to have answers to some of the answers that we saw to our offense previously. But I do think that we're going to end up being fine. Once it's all said and done. So. Big dogs got to eat. Asking, am I nervous at all with Arkansas bringing on a new coach and potentially implementing some new wrinkles that we haven't seen before? So yeah, I mean, I think that Bobby P is a really good offensive coordinator, and we just kind of talked about all those things. I think that their style of play it presents problems to Tennessee. Nealon's got to be rocking. Like our fan base really has to help us out. And I mean, look. Y'all, I mean, I almost said y'all, but the fan base for those of the people who were there kind of let me down versus Georgia. I feel like could have been a lot louder. We need to be just like out of our freaking minds. If we got to bring the ticket price down or whatever we have to do, I want the wild Vol fans inside of the stadium because we gotta impact this game. Just because it can be, and like you said, with this bye week, he's going to scheme some stuff up. If I'm going through just kind of like looking at the film, looking at some different situations last year versus this year, and I'm saying, oh, well, this looks the exact same. Do you think that Arkansas's coaching staff doesn't see that? I mean, maybe, right? Like, you're supposed to be self-scouting, but sometimes with the coaches that's been coaching for a long time, they're a little bit more stubborn, like kind of like set in their ways. That could be positive. But yeah, of course. I mean, we have to play very, very well. And from my dog, G White, what's going on, bro? Saying that I think that we won our trap roll game versus MSU. Yep, I think we roll Arkansas by 3 scores. I sure hope that you're right, and I was kind of thinking that too, just because for us to go down there and win that game, I don't know if Tennessee would have won that game previously. We found a way to be able to win on the road. That was one of our problems. So hopefully we've gotten over it. Like maybe that was kind of like that one game where, man, Coach Heupel doesn't look as good as he would typically look. Maybe it was in the game versus Mississippi State, and maybe for the rest of the year, we just going to be on a freaking roll. I think that we haven't started to peak really yet. We can take several steps forward. So, yeah, I think that those are good points. All right, so all three of our backs should have 50-plus yards. Yeah, I would like to see that. I would like to see us really try to stick to that running game and keep players fresh. So this one, asking, do we go to Bama or we're going to Bama. We're going to Tuscaloosa. Always tough. All right, so let's see some answers there. Love this. Yep, it's tough. All right, so Eric 29 is saying, really wish that we had kept Kobe Thomas. Yeah, he obviously he's playing well. We should have kept at least one of those safeties, just because right now we're just not deep enough. I'm not taking a shot at our guys now. It's just that you want to be able to rotate in more. Those guys are having to play a lot of snaps. All right, so this one from Pilo saying that, oh wow, you believe that we finished 9-3? So what? You have us losing to, I'm just gonna guess, what, Alabama and Florida? I mean, look, the season ain't over with yet, so I mean it's still possible. But I don't see us going 9-3. I don't see us losing 3 ball games. I don't see that happening. That would be a disappointment to me, especially with the way that we started this season off. I had us going 10-2 to start this year off. All right, so yeah, Kobe, he did some good things. He had an interception. I think he had a sack. He had some big hits. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy for his family. I know that he probably wanted to be at Tennessee, but you have to understand that whenever you're starting a family, I mean, you got to do what's best for family. Typically comes first. So I'm not even mad at him, man. I'm actually happy for him. And hope that they keep on playing well up until they have to face us, and then I hope that they play terrible. So, all right, they are in a look ahead spot to Bama. If you're talking about Tennessee, I don't think Tennessee's going to be looking past this one. Not after they beat us last year. If that happens, dude, I would put Heupel on the hot seat immediately. Of course, there'd be no way for us to prove it, but if you're going to look past the team that just beat you last year and almost messed up your whole year, we were undefeated, heading into that Arkansas game. There's no way that they're going to be overlooking this one. This one should have been circled. I think that we should get way up for this, and our fan base needs to as well, like I just said. Yeah, okay, so some of the same things that I was saying, okay, like that too. So MG Wade saying that I think that we can win every game on our schedule. Sadly, this could have been a 12-0 season. I think so. I mean, we were right there, man, right there for it. All right, so Nico did run, but not against SEC. Bama crushed him, and Ohio State too. But you know what? And this is why I don't like talking about it, because there were so many plays when Nico was running through people. He was knocking people out, running with cracked helmets and all that type of stuff too. So I just give credit where it's due. All right, let me see if I can. Let me see. Okay, so let me get to my dog J Pat. Okay, so saying GBO, and of course FUGA, grilling steaks, chilling with the family. Hey, love that. I think I'm about to try to. I don't know what I'm about to cook actually, but I need to. It is about that time. I'm getting started, but steaks sound good. I might have to run up to the store and grab me some. All right, so appreciate y'all for joining us. I'm gonna try to get to just a few more of these. Okay, so you don't think the Oklahoma's quarterback will be back against Tennessee? That 1 month of healing. Town with a broken bone, and if he does, he will not be 100%. So I think he's got like a broken thumb. I think it's in his throwing hand too. That can be very problematic, but typically like with broken fingers, I mean, you play through that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna play, like football players play through that. That's not even, that honestly doesn't even count as an injury unless it's to a quarterback's throwing hand. Because I think quarterbacks, even if they break a finger on their non-throwing hand, they play through that. So I mean, I'm just going to bank on, and this is what we do here. We're just going to bank on getting a team at full strength and at their best. And if it's less than that, then that's going to be a positive thing, hopefully, for Tennessee. But I'm anticipating that he will probably end up being back for that game. All right. So, and then what does Oklahoma play Texas this week? Man, that's going to be a tough one. But I think Oklahoma might end up winning it. But obviously, you can never tell with that game. The team that's playing worse wins that game, feels like most of the time that I've watched it. So maybe Texas ends up winning that one. It would be good. We need for Oklahoma to lose some games. So Matt is saying that Tennessee's up to number 12. Thank you for that, Matt. All right, so we got a whole lot in here. Okay, so I have to make sure that I get to this super chat from my dog 10 Vols 1084 saying that did Alabama or Vanderbilt game or the Alabama and Vanderbilt game give me more or less confidence for the Vols to win in T-Town? How about the Texas-Florida game with the Vols going to the Swamp? I think that's a good question, and let me get to the super chat for you. All right, bro. So yeah, I kind of covered that, but I would say with the Alabama game going down to Tuscaloosa, I think that I have more confidence just because there's some things like with Vanderbilt's pass rush. I said, shoot, dude, like if they're getting that much pressure, like imagine what we're gonna do. But again, it's not transitive, it's not always apples to apples, but it does make me feel like we got real dudes, so we should be able to generate some good quality pass rush. There's a lot of people who already talked about that. And then also seeing that Vandy was able to run the football very, very well versus Alabama, which just goes back to the points that we've made pretty much since the season started, that their run defense isn't great, their run offense isn't great. So yeah, I feel more confident with the Alabama game. Now, as far as going down to the swamp, I think I have even less confidence than I did because there was rocking. You know that of course their fan base is going to get up for those types of games, but seeing that they're starting to put things together with all the talent that they have, it's going to be that one's going to be tough. So I think that it's pretty much necessary that we win like the rest of our games going down to the swamp, as I said earlier. But let me get to this one right here from Cal, and thank you for all the questions. So this one from Cal saying that Hypo likes to play drama. We see it when Warren goes down after. Okay, yeah, after every field goal, it works at home sometimes. But think if we go to Bama, we need to turn it down and not expect calls. Yeah, I think that those are really, really good points. Some of the like typical antics that we have. I mean, but also too, and I totally get what you're saying, but as I'm like thinking through it, we still have to be us though, right? Like we don't want to make the game bigger than what it needs to be. It's two very talented teams. It's two teams that can't stand each other. It's two fan bases that can't stand each other. We're going to a hostile place, and we know that we have to play a very clean brand of football to be able to come out of there with that win. So I just think that that's what the mindset has to be. But yeah, those are all good points. All right, so y'all, thank y'all so much for all these chats. I'm not going to be able to get to all of them, but appreciate y'all for tuning in. Y'all please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And I do have to jump in here and start getting everything ready for all of our shows coming up this week. So hopefully y'all will be joining us. But we will be